This is a First Coast News special presentation. Hurricane Ready 2015, prepared for impact. Brought to you by James Hardie Siding and Trim, rated to withstand winds up to 200 miles per hour. Here now are your hosts, the First Coast News weather team.
Good evening and welcome to our special presentation of Hurricane Ready 2015, prepared for impact. I'm meteorologist Tim Deegan, along with the weather team, Lindsey Boats, Lou Turner, Mike Prang, and Steve Smith.
Thanks so much for joining us. Do you realize it's been nearly a decade since Florida was last hit by a hurricane? 5 decades here on the First Coast.
So let's take a trip back to 1964 and let's talk about Hurricane Dora. Thousands along the First Coast were bracing for that impact and its 125 mile an hour winds.
That was 18 hours of strong winds, major flooding, just pounding places like Jacksonville Beach, St. Augustine, the St. Johns River, and Brunswick, Georgia.
Homes were destroyed, floodwaters filled the streets, and when it was all said and done, Dora created about $2.5 billion worth of damage and claimed 5 lives.
We are in the longest drought in Florida history when it comes to hurricanes. But in 2004, we saw what can really happen. You know their names. Charlie, Francis, Ivan, Gene, hitting Florida all in the same season. This goes to show you the importance of being prepared in case of a real disaster. This year's seasonal forecast for hurricanes is predicted to be a quiet one, but don't let that be a reason to let your guard down. We spoke to Dr. Richard Knabb, the director of the National Hurricane Center, that is predicting another devastating storm likely for the Sunshine State of Florida.
No matter how long it has or has not been since you last experienced a really bad tropical storm or hurricane, it can happen this year. Hurricanes are a way of life in Florida. We've been fortunate for a few years now, but the hurricanes are going to come back. I hope it's not this year, but in case they do, I'm going to get ready.
All right, listen up. Here at First Coast News, all we care about and all we want to do is make sure you are prepared for this hurricane season. So to do that, let's go through a basic checklist of what you need to do. First, know your zone. Knowing what evacuation zone you're located in could be a matter of life or death and disaster. So we're going to show you where you need to go if the First Coast does face that threat of a hurricane. Next, know your supplies. A basic emergency supply kit should include items like water, a 3-day supply of non-perishable food, bandages, medicines, other items. Third, know your insurance policies. Make sure your flood, homeowners, and renters insurance policies are up to date. You may also need coverage for wind damage as well. And finally, know your home. We're going to show you how to protect your home, your family, and even your pets in the event of a disaster here on the First Coast. Okay, so let's get started. First up, Mike Prangley on why we should forget the cone and know your zones.
Nature's most powerful storm, the hurricane, at its peak almost as strong as any tornado out there. Strong enough and powerful enough to power the world 200 times over. But its biggest killer, not the wind, it's water. Water is 150 times more powerful than wind. So as a result, 9 out of 10 fatalities in these tropical systems are due to water. Unfortunately, folks make their decisions on keeping their family safe based on this cone of uncertainty. Okay, this is just the track and intensity of these storms. It does not tell you its killer impacts. And that's why when you put together your family safety plan, you need to know if you are in an evacuation zone.
We want to make sure that people understand where they are, what risks they might be exposed to, and then we'll be able to get them out of harm's way to a safe location.
Hurricane evacuation zones have changed based on advances in meteorology.
We really use the most recent scientific data that was available last year and use that to update these zones based on the LIDAR, the radar data that gave us very accurate indications of the above ground level that could be impacted by a storm surge.
The old zones only correlated with the category of hurricane, and with the new technology we've learned that it's more than just the wind impact. It has to do with the water.
The National Hurricane Center in Miami is ramping up attention to water hazards with new storm surge graphics built in with exactly how high the water will be where you live. The goal is to clearly identify where there is life-threatening surge so that it will help convince people to take action when their emergency management offices tell them to do so. There are new user-friendly ways to find out if you are in an evacuation zone in Duval County.
You just take your fingers on an iPhone and scroll right into your street, or you can actually enter your address and it'll pinpoint your house.
Know your zone by downloading the free Jax Ready app. Once you know you're in a hurricane evacuation zone and need to evacuate,
here are some things to protect your property.
Moving things up to a higher floor, getting things off the ground level, any loose items that might be out in the yard, making sure that we secure those, tie them down. Any hazardous material, be it propane tanks or anything else that's out there, we want to try to secure those before the storm waters rise.
Inland, the flooding can be just as bad.
Well, as you know, we've got significant river systems and estuaries that if it's a major storm, a strong storm with a lot of storm surge associated with it, there will be water far inland in places that are low-lying.
As a result, Duval Emergency Management has added a new freshwater evacuation zone to include areas well inland.
F is for freshwater flooding, and that, like we just talked about, that's areas that are very low-lying where it floods when we get heavy rainstorms, and it is fresh water because it's rain versus ocean water.
So know your zone and pick up your copy of this year's Jack's Ready Emergency Preparedness Guide. First Coast News has teamed up with the American Red Cross, WJCT, the Florida Times Union, and Duval County Emergency Management. They are free and will be available at the Florida Times Union, libraries, senior centers, and banks. It includes a form for those with special needs, a military information page, and even a kids' corner with puzzles. It also includes 4 pages of detailed evacuation zone maps. So again, pick up your emergency preparedness guide and know your zones.
I'm Lindsey Boats here at the landing right along the St. Johns River, and take a look at this. This is part of Operation Reality Check. They're all along the St. Johns River. You can see the different numbers and different colors. That shows you how high the river would come if there was a hurricane here on the First Coast. Now, each year, meteorologists forecast how the hurricane season is going to pan out. Last year, if you remember, there were 8 named storms and 6 of them became hurricanes. Now, forecasters this year are saying it could be the tamest on record, but it is important to remember that the predictions are just that, predictions. Now, last year, if you remember, there were 8 named storms and 6 hurricanes. Usually we have about 12 named storms and 6 of those become hurricanes. This year, forecasters at Colorado State University predict just 7 named storms, 3 of which will become hurricanes. And forecasters at North Carolina State University predict 4 to 6 named storms, with 1 to 3 of them becoming hurricanes. Now, they do agree in their predictions that there will be only 1 major hurricane for the United States this season, and here is why. It's all because of El Nino. Remember, El Nino is a periodic warming of tropical Pacific Ocean water. Typically, that means that we'll have a quieter Atlantic season as Pacific water temps rise to favor extreme weather on the west. Atlantic conditions become more mild. Already, sea surface temperatures in the eastern Atlantic, where many hurricanes start, are cooler than normal. Hurricanes feed on warm surface waters, but this does not mean that you should be unprepared. Coming up after the break, we're going to take a look at what you need to have in your emergency kits.
Also, a look at First Coast News Hurricane Central. How you and your family can get ready before you find yourself in the path of a storm. It's a click away only on firstcoastnews.com.